Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, according to 1 Kings 4:29 and 34. But I think it's not just his knowledge that made him so great, but also his common sense and his experience in dealing with people. And if you read some of the accounts of how he ruled and how he used his knowledge, it's amazing. How he helped people and how he solved issues that people had. He begins his ecclesiastical writings in the first chapter, in the second verse, saying, "Vanity of vanities," says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. And it doesn't take long to experience life and the dealings and going on of life when you look at this to see that it's nonsense. What Solomon's saying is this is nonsense. Anything and everything apart from God is nonsense. It's worthlessness. It's futility. He concludes his short writings in chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes in verse 13, which was read by Michael. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. The conclusion of the whole matter of life, existence, the things that are important to us, the things that should present value to us. Fear God and keep His commandments. For this is man's all. This is man's everything. But we can't forget about the final verse. Verse 14. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether it's good or whether it's evil. Solomon, again, in one of his Proverbs, in Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 8, says, trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding. And Solomon is serious when he speaks these words about trusting in the Lord and not to lean on what we think we know and what we think we understand, because our hearts are deceitful. Our emotions are fluctuating constantly. Our understanding does not see the overall big picture of what's going to happen down the road. In all of your ways, all of them, not some of them, not the convenient ones, but all of your ways, acknowledge Him and He will direct your paths. Because God doesn't lie. He never changes. He knows all, and we need to trust in Him. Do not be wise in your own eyes, but fear the Lord. Depart from evil, and it will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. And back to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 14, God will bring every work into judgment, including everything, the secrets. The secrets. What happens in the darkness? What happens behind closed doors? What happens in my vehicle when I'm the only one? God will bring those things to judgment. It may not happen now. There may not be any consequences. We may be able to get away with it temporarily. It may not be out in the open for everyone to see. And if we just understood and believed that, do we believe that? Do we believe that God sees all, whether hidden or open? And if we believe it, do we live like that? I don't know if sometimes we don't act like we believe that. 1 Corinthians 4 verse 5 says, "Judge nothing before the time until the Lord comes, who will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsel of the heart." Our sin will find us out. There can be no secrets. There are no secrets with God. And we forget that sometimes. Moses, to the children of Israel, God's people, in Numbers 32:23, he gives them a warning. He says, if you do not do what the Lord has instructed you to do, take note. You've sinned against the Lord, and be sure and know that your sins will find you out. Because our sin is, and the consequences of sin is timeless. It's timeless. People are suffering now for sin that they might have committed years ago. Every once in a while, I'll have a notice come up on my phone, or we'll see it on the news, and some cold case will come up. Something that's been put on the shelf and in a box for years and years and years. And all of a sudden, something new has come up, and they open that file. And they start investigating again, and they start running reports and doing tests. And pretty soon, whoever it was that was responsible has been brought to light and brought to justice. I always wonder what that guilty party that committed that crime is thinking year after year after year after year after year. Will they find me? Will they find me out? Will something happen and they'll find that I'm the real person responsible? And God says your sins will find you out. You cannot hide them. We cannot hide them from each other. We can try. There's a wise saying, don't take revenge. The rotten fruit will fall by themselves. That's biblical. That's unknown author, but that's biblical. Jesus said himself in Matthew 7:17 and 18, every good tree bears good fruit, and every bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. And by their fruits, you will know them. John the Revelator does an amazing job of providing this vision, this imagery, this symbology to the persecuted church in the first century of what God's judgment will look like. In Revelation chapter 20, 11 through 15, he says, I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heavens fled away. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and the books were open. The books were open, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. And the sea even gave up the dead that were in it. And death and Hades delivered up the dead that were in them, every single individual with no exception. And they were judged, each according to his works. Then Death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And I have this picture, this image in my mind of what that looks like. What that's going to be like. With God judging His people. The secrets are going to be revealed on that day. And the excuses are going to come out on that day, but are the excuses going to be good enough? I can't tell you how many people visited with that don't worship God because of something that happened. Something that happened. You talk to them, they're like, well, so-and-so said this, and it offended me. And so to this day, they do not worship God. Well, I don't like the way they think about this and this. And I have this image, and there's a reason why we have this image that John created for us with his vision, what he saw. We stand before God, and what is our excuse going to be? Well, they said something to me, and it made me upset. Or I was treated this way when I came. Well, they don't have this, and they don't, and so I don't go. I didn't worship you, God. We may think it's a good enough reason now and here, but what will it be on that day? But the Lord equips us. He equips us with all that we need to remain faithful to Him. Philippians 4:19, my God shall supply all your needs. Ephesians 6:10 through 18, that whole section talks about the entire and the complete armor of God that we have. That we can stand. We have the belt, the breastplate, the covering for our feet, the shield, the helmet, the sword. We have it all. We have it all to defend against whatever we need to defend against. There's always an escape. Always. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, God is faithful. God is faithful. God does not change. God is faithful. We change. We fluctuate. We are up and down. We are strong and weak. We are come, not come. God is faithful, even though we're not. And He will not allow us to be tempted beyond what we're able, but with temptation, He will always also make a way of escape, that we may be able to bear it. He doesn't promise to remove it. He doesn't promise to prevent it. He doesn't promise to take care of it, but He promises that we'll be able to bear it, whatever it is. No temptation can overcome us. Nothing. Philippians 4:13 is so much more than just an athletic slogan and a sign that you hold up. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There's always an escape. I posed this to my class the other week. It's like, is there a temptation that we are not able to bear? Name it. Name it. Name a temptation that we're not able to bear. Is it possible? There is an escape. There is an escape for everything. It doesn't matter if you're talking fornication, if you're talking adultery, if you're talking marriage, divorce, and remarriage, pornography, idolatry, every temptation, your escape is there. But we may not want it. We may not want to take it. We may not want to choose it. But the escape is there. It's there. King David, do not call for Bathsheba because she's a married woman. There's your escape. But he did it anyway. And look what it cost him. First Corinthians 15:58, that last verse in that particular chapter. Be steadfast, be immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor, your fight, your trials, your circumstances, whatever they are not in vain in the Lord. I think Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 through 25, and I'm going to end here. The most difficult part of following Christ. Being a New Testament Christian, being a believer, from the lips of Jesus, he says, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Take up the cross. I don't know how many of you have seen that pictures like this on social media of guys that are carrying a cross down the road. It's even got a wheel on it. Carry your cross. That's not the hard part. Anybody, I can do that. Anybody can do that. We had a guy in our neighborhood call me up and he said, I want to put a 15-foot cross in my front yard. Is that okay? And I want to put nails on it, blood on it, and verses all over it. That's not the hard part. I said, you can do that. Anybody can do that. Saying that we follow Jesus is not the hard part. The hard part is highlighted and underlined. First, let him deny himself. That has to happen before you take up a cross or you follow Jesus. Deny yourself. John 15:5, I am the vine. And without me, you can do nothing. Matthew 7, verse 8. To he who knocks, the door will be open. It doesn't say the one who stands there and waits, or the one who walks by, or is led by force and pulled through the door while holding on to the sides and heels dug in. But he who knocks. Are we willing to knock so that the door is open? Are we willing to deny ourselves so that we can take up our cross and follow him? God's saying to you this morning and to me, here's the problem. I hear what you're saying, but I also can see how you're acting. There's a lot of things in life that happen and that we might be involved in that we think are hidden. And they might be. They might be hidden. But only for a short time. And they'll be found out. If not this day or another day, it will be on the day. So if there's anything this morning that the elders can help you with this morning, whether it's prayer, whether it's additional study, or whatever it might be, Please make that known today as we stand, as we sing this song.